So this is what we have seen. What is the problem with the writing which statements, raw SQL statements? What is the problem with the using raw SQL statements within the program? And I've given some of the points of writing a raw SQL statements within a program. And to overcome these limitations, we are trying to use which one? ORM. I said ORM stands for Object Relational Mapping. And ORM is a standard or abstracts given by Python to communicate with various databases. And I said, what is the advantage of using ORM? I said ORM is a database independent and it avoids which problem here? SQL injection. And you don't require to communicate by writing SQL statements. You can communicate directly by using object-oriented programming, right? And I said Django ORM provides the following ORM engines. Now, suppose if you want to communicate with SQLite 3, you are using a backend as SQLite 3. If you want to communicate with the MySQL, you are using a backend as what? MySQL. If you want to communicate with Oracle, you are using backend as a Oracle like that. But these tools has to be configured in settings.py. Now, first step is configure ORM engine. Okay, inside settings.py. Suppose if you are using SQLite, then you have to define the engine that is django.db.backends.sqlite3 and name of the database here. Then if you want to communicate with a MySQL database, and this is a configuration which you have to use it. And if you want to configure, if you want to communicate with the Oracle database, yes, you have to configure this. Now you have to use a backend as what here? Oracle. And you have to define the name, username, password, host, as well as what? Port number. Then after that, you have to define the models. Then I said, what is a model? Model is a class which represent table within database. And these models are defined inside a special module called models.py. So here models.py is a database in that you represent each model which represent as one table, right? Yes, sir. How to create a model? Every model class is inherited from which class? Model class provided by Django.db. What is that? Models, right? So how to create a model from Django.db. Models, import what? Model and give the model class name, inherit which class? Model class. Now, yesterday we have done up to this. So today we'll see so how to create this model class. Yeah, tell me. Yeah. So after this, so open the project. Yesterday we created one project. Okay, open the project. Okay, open the project here. So yesterday we have created one project. Yesterday we created one project. So that is a project 9. Yes. And in this, you have to define the model. And what is the default database we are using? What is the database we are using? SQLite. We are using a database called SQLite. SQLite 3. But I want to use the database as MySQL. All of you know MySQL, right? So now here I'm using a backend as I'm using a backend as what here? MySQL. The backend is a MySQL and define the database name. Define the database name. I mean the database which is already there in the MySQL. So what you do is create one database, open MySQL command line client. Okay. And here first you create one database. I think you know how to create database in MySQL. Tell me here, how to create database in MySQL? Create database. Create database. Database name. Create database. Database name. Any database name you can give it. But I'm giving my database name is database 9am. Okay, database 9am. So what is the name of my database? Database 9am, right? Okay, use this database. First you create database. Create a database in MySQL. So for that, just open MySQL command line client and use the command create database and database name. And what is the name of my database? Database 9am and use the database, right? So once the database is created, now this database I'll try to use. What is system? Okay. So this database I'm trying to use in my project. Which database I'm using in my project? Database 9am. Okay. Now come to your project and what is the backend I'm using here? MySQL. And now tell me what is your database name is? Database 9am. Then what is your database username? Root. What is the default username of MySQL is? Root. Default username is a root. And what is the password? The password which is given at the time of installation of MySQL. In my system, what is my database password is root. Username is a root and password is also root. Then try to define the host name. Host means where your database is running. Where your database server is running in localhost. You can give the IP address also, but I'm trying to give what? Localhost. Then I'm trying to define the port number of my database. What is the port number of MySQL database? 3302. Yes, sir? Yes or no? Okay, 3302. So you have to do this configuration in settings.py because you are communicating with which database? Or you are communicating with which database? MySQL. So configuration of ORM is compulsory. Okay, configuration of ORM is compulsory. Now this you have to do in settings.py. Configure backend. First you configure backend. Configure the backend. Okay. Hmm. And I configure the backend as a MySQL. Okay. Right. Then after that, what you do is open. What is the name of the module? Models. And you represent a model. Writing a model is nothing but writing a table. So in Django, model represent what? Table. Table in the database. Okay. It represent table in the database. Okay. Now there is a class. So class, now which table you want to create. But are you created any table in database? No, you have not created any table in the database. We created only database, but we have not created what? Table. Okay, but I'm creating a table in what? Django. I'm creating a table in Django by creating what? Model. So whenever I create a model that represent table in what? Database. If the table is not there, what will happen? It will create a table. If the table is already exists, it will refer that table. A model represent table, right? So that table should exist or not? Yes. But if the table is not exist, what will happen? Create it. If the table is not exist, what will happen? Create it. So every model represent one table. Okay. So create a model. Which model is, suppose I want to represent whose details? Student details. What is the name of the class is student, and student is what? Model. So inherit which class? Model class. Every model inherit which class? Model class. How to build a model? By inheriting model class. How to build a vehicle? How to build a car? By inheriting vehicle class. How to build an animal? By inheriting animal class. Because it provides the common properties. Yes or no? So inheritance allows you to build a new class by using existing class. It allows you to build similar data types. It allows to build similar data types. Okay. Now student is a model. What is the relationship? In inheritance, what is the relationship between the classes? Is a relation. Okay, student is a model. Car is a vehicle. Okay, dog is a animal. Is a means type of. What is a relation is? Type of. It means student is a type of which one? Model. Because it is inheriting which class? Model class. Okay. Now this model is having some fields. What is the field is? Roll number. Roll number is which type? I'll try to define models dot. Models is what? Module. Model is a class. Models is a module dot. Which field? Integer field. Hmm. Roll number is which type? Integer type. So what is the type of the field is integer field. And here you can define what you can define primary key. What is a primary key is constraint. Okay. So once you assign the primary key, it should be unique and it should not be null. It should be unique and it should not be null. If I'm writing a primary key equal to true, then roll number should be unique and it should not be null. Compulsory you have to give roll number and duplicates are not allowed. Compulsory you have to give roll number and duplicates are not allowed. That is what you mean by primary key. So roll number is a primary key. Then next one is what? Name. So models module provide data types to represent which type of field types. You have an integer field data type, character field data type, date field data type, float field data type, choice field data type. You have various email field data type, date time field data type. You have various types of data types provided by whom? Models. Various types of data types provided by models. I'm saying here models dot. I'm writing here models dot. Which field? Character field. So whenever you are defining it as a character field, you have to define the maximum length. Is a keyword argument. And what is the maximum length of a name? How many characters length name is allowed allowed, that is defined by maximum length. What is the maximum length of a name? 20 characters. It's nothing but size. This maximum length is nothing but what? Size. Okay. Roll number is there, name is there, and one more is a course. I'm writing a models dot. Again, which field? Character field. We'll discuss all the field types. Don't worry. So this is also maximum length is 15. I'm writing one more field. What is the name of this field? Fees. And where I'm saying models dot, which field? Float field. You can define float field. Now, when you write it as a float field, you can define certain things like a number of precisions. You can define the number of precisions, maximum length, and you can define the number of precisions on all the things. Okay, but let us discuss that. But here I just given it as which one? Float field. Okay, now student is what now? Tell me here, what is a student is? Model. Model represent table. Now your table is having how many fields? Four fields. What is the first one is? Roll number. Second is name. Third one is course. Fourth one is fees. Clear? Bolo here, yes or no? Okay, this is representing a model. Very easy. Okay, now once you create a model, next step is written the model. Very easy. I'm writing all the steps. Now here you define the model in models.py. After defining models in models.py, okay, after defining models in models.py, install your application. So the application is installed. No. What is your application is? Application 1. In settings.py, define the application definition or install the application. In settings.py, install the application. Okay, see here all the steps. Okay, we created database. Then in settings.py, we do configuration of my database. And then we define the model for my database and we install the application. Then once it is done, what is the next step is you have to do migrations. What do you have to do? Migration. Migration. General. What is the meaning of migration? A person moving from one place to another place. Moving is called what? Migration. You migrate to US. You migrate to what? Some other country, right? Moving from one place to another place. That generally you call it as which one? Migrations. Yeah, define the port number. I define the port number 33. Port number is what? 3302. And that is called as a port number here. Here I define no. So once you do this, what is the next step is you have to do what here? Migration. Migration is nothing but here you have to convert or you have to generate a database schema. You have to generate a database schema is nothing but structure. The structure which understand by whom? Database. So that you can call it as which one? Migrations. You have to do what next? Migrations. It means you have to generate a database schema. It's nothing but which define the structure. It means your project is having how many models? Your project is having how many models? And each model is having how many fields? And where these models get created in which database? All this information is generated once you do what? Migrations. Once you do what? Migrations. First step after developing model is you have to do what? Migrations. But this migrations is done how many times? Only one time. But whenever you do changes in the models, you have to do what? Migrations. But until unless you're not doing any changes in model, you don't require to do what? Migrations. Getting on. So next step is next step after developing a model. Okay, migrations. Migrations. So migrations consist of two things. One is make migrations. Two commands are there. One is make migrations and one more is what? Migrate. Two comments are there. One is make migrations and one more is a migrate. So this command is provided by Python manage.py. What is the name of the program? Manage.py, and it followed by make migrations. Once the migrations are successful, then you migrate it. Make migration is what? Process. And once the process is successful, then what do you do it? Migrate it. Migrate means execute it. Migration is nothing but what? Migration, make migration is a process of creating which schema? Database schema. And once the migration is completed, then what do you do it? Migrate. Migrate means you map it. What you are mapping? Model with the table. Model with the table. That is done by using which one? Migrate. Suppose if the table is not there, what will happen? It will create a table. If the table is exists, it doesn't create any table. Getting or not what I'm telling you, right? So there are two commands are there provided by which one? Manage.py. So manage.py is a command line utility which is used for managing what? Application, creating application, executing the server, okay, making migrations, creating super users. All these are done by which program? Manage.py. It is a command line utility. It is a command line utility. So there are two commands you have to execute it. One is make migrations and one more is what? Migrate. Make migration and one more is migrate. I'll discuss here. I'll discuss Kumar Gowda. I'll discuss sir name is also not null. We'll discuss constraints. Constraints we'll discuss. Okay, don't worry. Right? It is not system based. Port number is not system. Port number is belongs to database server. If you want, you can change it at the time of installation. Whatever port number you give, you can give that port number. That might be changes at the time of installation. Okay. So you have to do migration. These commands are asked, frequently asked. What is the difference between make migrations and what? Migrate. It is a frequently asked question because every Django developer must know certain things. So getting pass in Django interview is very easy because you have a limited number of questions. If you learn some 50 to 60 questions, always they'll ask the same questions. But if it is Python, no. You have to learn complete Python. Which question is asked, we don't know. But when it comes to the Django and REST API, you have only limited number of questions because this is framework. You are working within the boundary, but language doesn't have boundary. But framework is having what? Boundary. Yes or no? Okay. Yes. Now this question might be asked, what is the difference between, see here, make migrations and migrates here. What is the difference between make migrations and migrate in Django? So migrations, I said no migrations here. In Django, make migrations and migrate are two distinct steps used to keep your database schema. Database schema. Just now I said database schema. Schema is nothing but structure. Sync with your Python models. It means whenever you do changes in what? Model. Whenever you do changes in model, you have to generate again what? Schema. Yes or no? So how you generate that schema? By using make migrations. Then you try to apply the changes by using which one? Migrate. See here, make migration. This command scan your models.py files for any changes. Example, adding a new field or removing a field and package those changes into what? Migration file. What it does, it create recipe or set of instructions in a Python file located in your what? Apps folder. An effect on database, it doesn't touch your database. If any no changes are there, it doesn't touch your database. If any changes are there, it will try to apply what? Changes. But this will not touch your database. When to use? Run this immediately after after you modify your Django models. What this will do, it will create a database schema. It will generate database schema. Migrate is there. This command takes a migration file created by make migrations and apply from to your actual database. It will apply when you do what? Migrate. So effect on the database, this step that actually changes your database structure. Okay, when to use? Run this after migrations or after pulling a new code from terminate uh, teammate, sorry, that contains a new migration files, right? So that is nothing but make migrations and one more is what? Migrate. But these are two different steps which have to be followed whenever you build what models. But this you run how many times? Only one time. But whenever you do changes in your model, compulsory you have to run two steps. One is make migrations and one more is what? Migrate. Getting or not? Okay. So make migrations. Migrations now see here primary purpose to record changes made to what? Models. To record changes made to model, migrate to apply recorded changes to what? Database. Output .py migration file or updated database tables and what? Schema. And database impact none. Okay. But this will modify what? Database. Workflow order is step one, prepare the changes, execute the changes. Getting on or? So these are the things what you have to remember it. Okay. So what make migration is doing it. So the first one is make migrations. What is the name of the command is? Make migrations. Migration process contain two things. One is make migrations and one more is what? Migrate. Suppose it is as simple as like this here. You want to migrate to some country. What is the process? You directly migrate, huh? No. Process will be there or not? Yes. It means you have to submit. You have to apply visa. You have to submit. In that you put all your family details, all the details. They'll verify everything. Once everything is done, they put what? Stamping. And then you are eligible for what? Then you are eligible for what? Migration. Suppose any changes are there. After migrating, okay, you want to migrate one more person of your family. You want to add one more person in your family. Then changes are done or not? Yes. Then again make migrations. It means this person is added in my family. Then again what do you do it? Migrate. So whenever you do changes in the model, then you have to do what? Migrations. Then you have to apply that changes to the database. But that is done by using which command? Migrate. Okay. So make migrations. Okay. So make migrations. Make migrations. Okay. Command create. Which file? It will create which file? Migration file. It will create which file? Migration file. Migration file with the extension .py only. Yes, it will create a separate module. It will create a separate module. And this migration file, this migration file, this migration file is created by reading models information, models information exist in which one? Models.py. Means make migrations create a database schema. Schema is nothing but structure. Schema is nothing but structure. So make migrations, create what here? Database. Database, what is that? Schema is nothing but structure. It defines the structure, but it will not do anything on database. It will not do anything on database. Make migration doesn't do anything on which one? Database. It doesn't do anything on database. It will not touch the database. This make migration doesn't touch the database. It will just create a structure. So this is a first command which has to be run after creating models. Okay, this is a first command. This is a first command which has to be run, after creating which one? Models. And where this database schema file is created in app folder. This database schema module or file is created inside which folder? Application folder. So this database schema is useful. Okay, useful to maintain different versions of which one? Database. Different versions means, for example, whenever there is a change, whenever there is a change in a model, when you say make migration, it will create one version of what? Schema. Getting on it. Suppose you created a student model with number, roll number, name, course, and what? Fees. I do migrations, then it will create a database schema with how many fields? 4 fields. That is roll number, name, course, and fees. Suppose later I added one more field called date of birth. I added one more field called which one? Date of birth. Then whenever you do changes, what do you have to do? Make migrations. When I say again make migrations, it will create another migration file. It will create another migration file where it will apply one change. What is that change is? Date of birth. Now you can maintain versions of which one? Models. It means what are the changes done in the model that can be maintained by using which files? Migration files. Okay, versions are nothing but model changes. Different versions of database means model changes. What I mean to tell you is model changes. Whatever you do in the model, that changes you can maintain in a say different migration files created in which folder? Application folder. Created in application folder. Let me tell you this. Open the project practically, but don't do every time. Go to the terminal. Go to the terminal and write here Python manage dot model changes means what here? Adding a field, deleting a field, changing the data type. These are called what? Model changes. Creating one new model, adding a new model, okay, removing existing model. All these are what? Model changes. For every change, you have to do what? Migrations. For every change, you have to do what? Migrations, right? So Python manage.py make what? Migrations. Make migrations is a command, right? So run the command. So once you run the command, now you can see, okay, you can see here. This is a warning, no problem. It is not an error. It is what? Warning. So run warning got an error. Checking a constraint migration history performed for database connection default. Cannot connect to the server local host. Local host is there or not there? There. So what we have given? Local host only. Array. Host name is given. No problem. But this is not an error. This is what? Warning. So what is the default host name is? Local host. So you have to define all this: engine name, database name, user name, and one more is what? Password. All these things you have to define it in order to communicate with what? Database. Okay, right? Yes. And what is the port number of this is 3302. Okay. Now you can see there is one migration file is created. Where it is created in? See here. Where it is created in? Or where it is created in application 1. Application 1. Spurjit. Spurjit क्या है? रजिस्टर क्या है? ये रजिस्टर क्या है यार? स्फूर्जित. स्फूर्जित क्या है उसका नाम यार? In admin we have register. Which admin? Which admin here? Why? What is the use of that? What is the use of that here? और admin का use क्या है? हाँ? पूरा सुनो यार. हाँ? Now here in migration folders, you can see one migration file 0001 0001 initial dot what is that? Py. Now can you see this class or not? Yes. What is the name of the class? Migration. Now initial true dependencies. Is it created all the things? Now this is called as which schema? Database schema. Now you can see migrations dot create a model. What is the name is? What is the name is? Student. What are the fields is? 4 fields: roll number, name, course, and fees. Now this is a schema, means structure of, this is what? Structure of your database. This is a structure of your database models. And that you can find it in one file. What is the name of the module is? 001 underscore initial dot py. Suppose when I do changes in the model, and when I say make migrations, then it will create another migration file. It will create another migration file with what? 002. 002 underscore init initial dot what? Py. Now suppose I do changes here. For example, I try to add one more field. Roll number is there, name is there, course is there, fees. And here I'll try to define which name? College name, date of birth. Okay. Or I'll take anything here, which is section. Roll number, name, course, fees, section. Models dot, which field? Character field. And maximum length is some 5. But here I added one new field or not? Yes. But this changes has to be done in the schema, because always the migration is done based on which one? Database schema generated by make migrations. Make migrations. Now again I'm saying python manage.py, make migrations. Now you can see what it is saying. Provide a one of default row, but is it having any columns? You don't have any columns, right? So there is a non-nullable section. The student without specifying. There is some error. I mean, what is this? Localhost is giving warning. See here. It is impossible to add a non-nullable field section to a student without specifying a default. This is because the database needs something to populate existing rows. Okay, what it is saying it? Now you added one new field, right? Whenever you add a new field, assume that there is a table already there in what? Database. There's a table already there in what? Database, right? But is it this is required field or not? Yes. Then you have to define default value. Means when you're adding a new field, okay, in that some value should be exist or not? Yes. Then what you have to do? You have to define which values? Default value. You have to define which value? Default value. Default. And what is the default is? I just give the default value as what? A. What is the default value I've given? A. Now I just quit from the here and I'll generate again. Okay. Okay, quit here. See why this default value is required? Because assume that there is already table. There is already table with how many fields? 4 fields. Getting or not? There is already table with how many fields? 4 fields. And data is already there. You are adding one new column. Then what will happen? One column is added or not? Yes. That column is added with what values? You have to give some values or not? Yes. If you don't give the values, is it allowed or not allowed? Not allowed. It is not allowed. See here, default is given A, or you just define here required. Required is there, and what do you call it as? You can also define the constraints. What is the constraint is not null, or you can just define which value? Default value. So what is the default value I'm giving? Some section A. Now make migrations. If any confusion is there, don't add it. But how many migration files are there? So how many migration files are there? Only one. So here one new field is added or not added? Not added. Okay. So again do the migrations. Python manage.py, make migrations. Okay, now it is applied. See here, add field section to what? Student. You can see one more migration file or not? Yes. In this migration file, the changes are added or not? Yes. So model name is a student and name is what? Section. Name is a section. Fields equal to model character field. Okay, one new field is added. One new field is added to which field, which model? Existing model. What is the existing model is? Student. Means it is compulsory required. It is compulsory required to do what? Migrations whenever you do changes in what? Model. Whenever you do changes in the model, compulsory you have to generate what? Database schema. And for every migrations, it will create one migration file. And it will create a migration file with a unique number 001 underscore initial dot py 002 underscore student section. What is section is? Column name. What is the student is? Model name. And initially this is, but later you added one field. Which field is added? Section field is added in which model? Student model. This is a second change. This is what? Second change. If you add one more field, then you will get 003 in the model. Which column is added? Which column is modified dot py. So for every migration, it will create one migration file. Okay, that migration file contain what it contain? Database schema means structure. It contain what? Database structure. Okay, so I just copy here. So these are called migration files. It is created under which folder? Application folder. You can see in the application folder, inside the application folder, which folder is there? Migration folder. In migration folder, which one is there? Migrations file. Now, once the migration is done, next what? Migrate. Once the migration is done, next is what? Migrate. Once the migration is, are you getting or not? So what is the meaning of migrations here? Make migrations, command, create which file? Migration file. Okay, this migration file is created by reading what? Models information exist in models.py. So migrations create a database schema is nothing but structure. Okay, and make migration doesn't do anything on database. Okay, this is a first command. This is a first command which have to be run after creating what? Models. And this database schema module or file is created inside which folder? Application folder. It is created in application folder, and database schema is useful to maintain the different versions. A model changes of which one? Database. Okay, right? So once it is done, not every time, whenever you do changes, you have to generate. Ramakant, whenever you do changes, you have to generate. Whenever you do changes, you have to generate. Abhi Spurjit, you didn't say admin.py. Spurjit, ये admin.py क्या है? What is that admin.py? Admin panel for what? For what? Database. Admin panel is for database. Huh? Admin panel is for database. This is what you call it as off knowledge. अभी admin किसके लिए नहीं मालूम? Model बोले तो admin बोल रहे. Is it any link with model and admin? Any link is there? No, no link, right? Admin is one application. Model is a model. No link, right? But people will learn like this. Model create करने के बाद admin में जाओ. क्यों जा रहे हैं नहीं मालूम. In interview also they'll tell the same thing. Fail. What is the use of admin means? Model. Model बोले तो हो जाता है क्या? Admin is an application, separate application it is. You learn in separate chapter what is the use of admin is. Every project you'll have an admin. For configuration we use admin. Which configuration? Which configuration? Yeah. Which configuration you use for admin? Registration. Which registration? Database. Why you register database with admin? What is the use? Customize model है. Admin में customize कैसे model करते हैं यार? देखे. That is the reason. Learn properly. Huh? Sir, no. So admin is different. Don't say admin is for registering model. Admin is for okay creating model, changing a model. No. Where you do changes in model in models.py only. Admin. Admin, every project will admin. What is the use of admin? Creating users, creating groups, creating permissions. That is done by whom? Admin. Performing some operations on what? Database. That is done by whom? Admin application. Admin is separate application. Don't link with what? Models. मगर थोड़ा लोग ऐसे बताते मॉडल क्रिएट करो बाद में जाके उसमें करो बोल के. Is it possible to create many models? We'll see here. First we'll see one model. Why many models? First we'll run one model and then we'll create many models. Okay. Yes. Shall I repeat again? Model you understood? Okay. Then for every changes, I'll not use any admin. Not admin is not required now. Admin is not required now. Understood? Admin is not required. When it required, I'll tell you admin chapter is there. In admin chapter, we'll learn what is the use of admin. Now there is no use of admin. There's no use of admin now. Okay, na? Right. So after this, next step is what? Migrate. Migrate is nothing but applying changes. Where you apply the changes in? Database. अभी database में table हो ना, okay? Then you develop model, then you apply this model into what? Database. What is model equivalent in database? Table. If the table is there, apply the changes. If the table is not there, create a table. If the table is there, it will apply the changes. If the table is not there, create a table. That is done by a command called migrate. There is a command called which one? Migrate is a command. So this has to be done after doing which one? Make migrations. So how this migrate runs? By using which file? Migration file. Whenever you say migrate, then what migrate command is doing? It is looking for which file? Migration file. Where it is looking for migration file? In migrations folder of your application. Migrations folder of your application, then it will migrate it by using which version of migration? Last version. What is the last version? 002. What is the last version? 002. Then say python manage.py migrate. Now you can see one file is used. Migration file is used. Why localhost is not there? Host password. Not required. This is, it can be any value. Localhost. Problem with the localhost. Default 06 06 06 or 02 06 yes. Now it is done the migrations. And what is a migration? So it is used a migration file, right? You can see admin application one, authentication content type. So you can see applying content types dot 001 underscore what? Initial. Okay, now these are the migration files available in what? Different applications. But your application is there here. What is your application is? Application 1.001 underscore what? Initial. Application 1.002 what? Student section. It means these changes are applied or not applied? Applied. How many applications are installed in your project? Your project is having how many applications? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Whenever you say migrate, it will do migration on how many applications? 7 applications. It will do the migration on how many applications? 7 applications. But you don't want migrate to be applied on which applications? 7 applications, because it will create how many tables? It will create tables belongs to all applications in your database. Go to the back end. Go to the back end. Go to the back end here. Go to the back end database. Here, go to the database and say here show. Show what here? Tables. See here. How many tables are created? Student table belongs to what? Application 1. Group is belongs to what? Authentication. Group permission is belongs to what? Authentication. This what is that? Log is belongs to what? Admin. uh, Content type is belongs to what? Design. Migrations belongs to what? Session is belongs to what? So for every application will it build tables or not? Yes, but I don't want all these because all the applications are migrated or only one application. All applications are migrated. Why default means, see, your model make migration doesn't know, because make migration doesn't touch database. Make migration doesn't touch database. It doesn't know is it data is there or not. So it follows some rules and regulations. It assumes that okay, the data is already there. Then when you're adding a new column, there should be some default value or not. Yes. So compulsory, you have to define the default value. Compulsory, you have to define the default value. I'll tell you constraints. What is a reference key? What is a foreign key? What is one-to-one relation? What is one-to-many relation? All these things we'll discuss it. Okay, right? Yes. Okay, now application one underscore, what is that? Student. Okay, describe it. Describe. What is describe? APP1 underscore what? Student. Now you can see there is a roll number, name, course, fees, and one more is what? Section. So default is a null, right? So there is a section which is varchar 2. So null, and this is which key? Primary key, right? This is a structure which is created. But when it is created, when you do what? Migrations. Until unless you don't do migrations, okay. Until unless you don't do migrate, it will not create a structure. It will not create a table. Now what will happen if I say again? What will happen if I say again migrate? If I say again migrate, what will happen? Or if I say migrate, what will happen? Suppose if I say make migrations again, what will happen? Python manage.py, make migrations, what will happen? Any changes are done or not done? Any changes are done or not done? Not done. Changes. How it identify the changes? By using which file? Migration file. Are you done any changes or not done? Not done. If you have not done, then any changes are reflected or not reflected? Not reflected. See here, no changes deducted. There's no changes what? Deducted where? In the models. But how it is identifying is it changes are done or not by using which file? Migration file. In this migration file, how many fields are there? 5 fields. Same fields are exist in the model or not? Yes. Then immediately says no changes what? Deducted. In the same way, if I say migrate, what will happen now? If I say migrate, what will happen? Migrate, what will happen? It will create database structure in the database or not? Yes, it will create a tables in what? Database. All this done by using which one? Migrate. But if the table is there, will it create again table? Huh? No, no. When I say migrate, what will happen? It is saying running migration, no migrations to what? Apply. Because it is already migrated. Getting or not? Is it available or not? Yes. Okay, so this is the difference between make migrations and what? Migrate. Migrate. So migrate is a process of, you understood us? So whenever you do changes in Model compulsory, you have to do what? Migrations. Once migration is done, next step is what? Migrate. Once the migration is done, the next step is migrate. So this command, apply what? Changes to database. Apply changes to what? Database. So you can say in detail, migrate command, uses which file? Which file here? Migration file. Migrate command uses migration file and execute. Okay, this migration or the changes on which one? Database. So migrate connect with what? Migrate command connected to what? Database. This command, this command connected to what? Database and create what? Or create what? Tables. For each model, it generate one table. For each model, it generates one table. For each model, it generates a table. So, which command communicate with the database? Migrate command. Okay. Now you write like this. So Python manage.py migrate. Python manage.py migrate. Python manage.py migrate. Right? So this is what is the meaning of make migrations and one more is migrate. Once the migration is done, you go to the backend and verify is it these tables are created or not. Is it these tables are created or not? That you verify in the backend. Clear? Follow here. Now your database is ready or not? Yes. Your database is what now? Ready. Okay, now can I add any number of models? Can I add any number of models or only one model? Any number of models. Your project may contain one table or more than one table. Your project contain one table or more than one table, right? So you can have a multiple tables, then you can have a multiple models. You can create another model. What is the model is? Teacher. Models dot, I'm adding one more model. Models dot, what is the name of this is? Inherit. Which class? Model class. Okay, teacher ID. So I just take teacher ID, which is models dot. Can I write auto field? Auto field means this value generated what automatically. Now you don't require to insert this. Okay. See, there are types out there. I'll discuss that otherwise. This is which field? Integer field. I just write it as a primary key. So primary key will discuss constraints. Don't worry. And there is a teacher name and models dot character field. Character field and define the maximum length. That's all. I've taken how many fields? Two fields. Then next, teacher is there here. Teacher is there in the database? No. What do you have to do now? What do you have to do? What do you have to do? Migrations. What do you have to do? Migrations. Whenever changes what do you have to do? Migrations. Make migrations here. Created model. Which model is created? Teacher. And where the changes are done in one more file. What is that? Another migration file. 003 underscore teacher.py. Now in this, you can see one new model is created. Create a model. Now previous one is what? Create a add a field. Migrations dot add a field. But here migrations dot create model. Getting on. So how many changes we have done from beginning? Three. First one is created, then added new field and added one more new model. And then what do you do next? Migrate. Python manage.py migrate. So migrate now applied app1.003. So means one more model is created or not? Yes. So show tables and you can see application one underscore what? Teacher. But whenever you do changes, compulsory you have to do what? Migrations. Okay. So I added one more model later. Later I added one more model in models.py. Add one more model inside models.py. Added another model. And once you add another model, then do what again? Make migrations and migrate. Make migrations and one more is a migrate. Once this is done, now verify in the model, database. So there is one table is added. And what is the table is added? Teacher. Understood? Right? Up to this clear? Bolo yaar. Okay, so that is make migrations and migrate. What is the difference between make migrations and migrate? Make migrations and migrate. This difference I'll take from here summary table. So here the difference is the primary purpose is to record changes made to the models. Output is which file? .py migration file. Any impact on the database? No. Okay, work order is prepare the changes. Okay, so migrate. Okay, to apply recorded changes to the database. Updated database table and what? Schema. And modifies the database. And this is a step 2. Execute the changes. So this is a difference between the make migrations and migrate. Done this. And next is performing which operations? Crude operations. Like suppose I want to insert the data, I want to update the data, I want to delete the data, I want to retrieve the data. So model provides, model provide some methods. Model provide a methods. So what is the name of the model is student. Inherited from which class? Model class. Okay, teacher is inherited from which class? Model. So class is a collection of what? Variables and methods. Variables are nothing but data members and methods are nothing but member functions. So this model provides the methods to perform operations on which one? Model. So performing operations on model is nothing but performing operations on what? Table. Performing operations on what? Table. So by default, what is my model name? What is the model name? Student. What is the model name? Teacher. What is table name? What is table name? Student. What is table name? Array, what is model name? Student. What is model name? Teacher. What is table name? Student only. What is table name? Student. What is more table name? Teacher. But that is created with the prefix. Prefix as which name? Application name. It will create with prefix as what? Application name. Student. Application 1 teacher. Application 1 by default it will create a table with a prefix with what name? Application name. Suppose you don't want that. You want to create with what name? Student. You want to create with what name? Teacher. Can I change the name? Yes. You want to create a table with different name. You want to create a table with what? Different name, not with the same name. Suppose there is a class. There is a class. What is the class now? Employee. So models dot, tell me here. Models dot model. What employee is having? Number. Okay, models dot integer field. Integer field. And you define primary key is a true. Employee name. I take only two. Models dot character field. And this is maximum length. And maximum length is what here? 20. Okay. We added one more model or not? Yes. But I don't want create table with what name? Application 1 underscore what? Employee. I want to give my own name. Then class. Inside a class, you write another class. Class inside a class is called nested classes. Okay, class inside a class is which class? Nested class. While loop inside a while loop, nested a while. If inside a if is what? Nested if, like that. You are saying class. What is the name of the class? Meta. What is the name of the class? Meta. Meta means metadata. Meta means what? Metadata means you are providing information about model. You are providing information about what? Model. What information? I'm just using, what is the name is? DB, sorry, DB table. So table underscore name or DB, DB underscore table and just give the table name. What is my table name is? EMP. But what is my model name is? Employee. But you communicate with the table with model name or table name, model name. But inside the database, my table is created with what name? EMP. Table is created with what name? EMP. So compulsory you have to write class which one? Meta. So meta is the inner class. Now, who identify this attribute? This attribute is predefined attributes. These are not user defined, right? These attributes are already, or these attributes are already exist. Now you just give only values. You just give only which one? Values. Meta class. Meta class of model having so many attributes. We'll discuss that. Meta class of, meta class of model is having so many attributes. Okay, meta class of attribute, meta class of inner class here. In Django models, class meta is an inner class used to provide which data? Metadata. Anything that is not a field to the model. Okay, what you are trying to define? You are trying to define what name? DB table. DB table represent which name? Database table name. Database table name. Okay. So that is what you are trying to define. But number of fields are there. We'll discuss that later. Okay. Yes. So now after this, what you have to do? Follow your migrations. Make migrations. Created one more model. Then next is what? Migrate. Migrate it. Apply it. Go to the backend. Show tables. What is your table name? EMP. But what is your model name? Employee. What is table name? EMP. But by default, it created table with what name? Model name with the prefix as application name. Getting or not? So if you have a multiple applications, don't give DB table, because to identify this application, I mean, this table is belongs to which application. Okay. But if you have only one application, then you can give your own table name. So for that, you are using one attribute. Okay, table name, database table name, database table, how to change database table name by writing inner class. Inside model class, define a inner class called meta. Okay, called meta. M should be capital. So meta class represents what? Metadata of which one? Model. Describing. Metadata means describing about model. Describing about model. This is helpful for changing table names and all the things. See here. This code I'm copying it. Now this is in what? Models dot py. This is in models dot py. You are writing this in here. Okay. Now DB table is an attribute. DB table is an attribute of which class? Meta class, which define database table name. What it represent? Database table name, right? So DB table is an attribute of meta class which define the database table name. By default, database table is created with what? Application name underscore no, which name? Model name. Application name underscore model name. If your application is application 1, then model name is a student, then it will create with application 1 underscore student. If your application is a 2, then create with application 2 underscore like this. But you don't want that, then you change that name by writing which class? Meta class, by writing one attribute called db underscore table. Right? Clear? Okay, so differences you understood? Make migrations and migrate. Then next is performing. Which operations? CRUD operations. Performing CRUD operations on which one? Model. Model means what? Table. What does model represent? Table. Whenever your Python program or Django application want to communicate with a table, it communicate with what? Model. Understood? You want to insert data? Model. You want to update data? Model. You want to delete data? Model. No insert command, no delete command, no select command, no update command. You do everything using methods provided by which class? Model class. With SQL statement or without SQL statement? Without SQL statements. Understood? So tomorrow we'll discuss how to perform, like how many ways can you insert data, how many ways you update, delete, all this we'll learn first, and then we'll build a application. Okay, na? Right. Today we'll stop it here, and tomorrow we'll continue this. Please practice this. Okay, some students not able to run the server only. Okay, you have to run the server, you have to do it here. If a server is not running, why it is running, you have to check the errors at least. Debugging also you should know it. Okay, na? If a server is not running, you drop the class. If view is not working, you drop class. A model is not working, ये क्या है, कुछ भी काम नहीं कर रहे बोल के क्लास छोड़ देते. But you don't have, see, Vaisa, suppose you join in the company, if some code is not working, you leave the job. Huh? You leave the job or debug? Debug. That skills you have to improve here. Huh? So otherwise, it is very difficult. But even though I'm telling you everything in detail, understood? Right. Thank you. We'll see tomorrow.